Welcome back to Real Unsolved Crimes, where we explore the most haunting mysteries that have resisted answers for decades. Today, we travel back to 1975, a time of bell-bottoms, vinyl records, and quiet suburban neighborhoods. But in one such neighborhood in Wheaton, Maryland, a story unfolded that would captivate and terrify the nation. This is the case of the Lyon sisters, Katherine and Sheila. March 25, 1975 was the first true day of spring in Wheaton. The kind of day when kids raced outside after a long winter, ready to shake off the chill and taste the promise of summer. Katherine Lyon was 10 years old. Her sister Sheila was 12. The two girls were inseparable, bright, cheerful, and responsible. That afternoon, they asked their mother if they could walk to Wheaton Plaza, the local shopping mall, just half a mile from their home. It was a trip they'd made before. It felt safe. Familiar. Their mother agreed, telling them to be back by 4 p.m. in time for dinner. The girls left around 11 a.m. and were spotted by multiple people at the mall. They stopped by the Orange Bowl, grabbed lunch, browsed through a record store, and reportedly talked with other kids. But by 4 p.m., they hadn't returned. At first, their parents, John and Mary Lyon, assumed the girls had lost track of time. But minutes turned to hours. As darkness fell and no sign of their daughters appeared, worry turned into panic. By that evening, police were called. A search began immediately. Officers canvassed the mall, questioned witnesses, and scoured nearby woods and roads. But there was no sign of Katherine or Sheila. It was as if the girls had simply vanished. The case exploded in the media. The Lyon sisters became household names. Flyers were posted in every store window. Volunteers combed through forests and streams. Every possible lead was chased. But each one led to a dead end. Then, a witness came forward with a disturbing report. A teenage boy said he saw the girls talking to a man outside the mall. He described him as tall, thin, and wearing a brown suit. He was carrying a briefcase with what looked like a tape recorder inside. This man became known as the tape recorder man. Police created a composite sketch, and the public was asked to help identify him. Dozens of tips poured in, but none led to a breakthrough. It was as though the man had simply disappeared, just like the girls. For decades, the case remained cold. In the years that followed, the Lyon family endured unbearable heartbreak. John Lyon, a popular radio personality at WM in Washington, D.C., eventually stepped away from the microphone. Their house, once filled with laughter, was quiet. Police continued to work the case, but with no bodies, no suspects, and no physical evidence, they had little to build on. Over the years, several people falsely confessed to the crime, some seeking attention, others mentally ill. Each time, hope was raised, then cruelly dashed. Then, in 2013, nearly 40 years later, a cold case unit reopened the investigation. And what they uncovered would finally bring the truth into the light. Investigators began to focus on a man named Lloyd Welch. Welch was a convicted child molester who had, back in 1975, inserted himself into the Lyon case by claiming to have seen the girls at the mall. At the time, he was dismissed as an attention seeker. But now, using new forensic techniques and digging through old files, detectives took a second look at his statement. And they found inconsistencies. Welch's story changed with every interview. He claimed he'd seen the girls talking to a man who matched the tape recorder man's description. But he also claimed to have been with that man, and even inside the car they supposedly used. As they pressed him further, Welch's details became darker, more sinister. In 2015, Welch was indicted on 2 counts of first-degree felony murder. He eventually accepted a plea deal and admitted to participating in the kidnapping and abuse of the girls, though he blamed their deaths on other family members, including his uncle, Richard Welch, and his cousin. Welch told investigators that the girls were taken to his relative's property in Bedford County, Virginia, a remote, rural area filled with dense woods and hidden hollows. There, he said, the girls were killed and burned. He couldn't, or wouldn't, say who did it. Forensic teams searched the property and recovered what appeared to be human bone fragments. However, the fragments were too damaged for conclusive DNA testing. Still, prosecutors had enough. On September 12, 2017, Lloyd Welch was sentenced to 48 years in prison. It was a bittersweet moment for the Lyon family. After more than 4 decades, they finally had some answers, but the pain of what happened to their daughters would never fade. And the case, in many ways, still isn't closed. No one else has been charged. Welch's statements were filled with contradictions and evasions. The true role of his family members remains murky, and the full truth of what happened to Katherine and Sheila may never be known. The Lyon sisters case reminds us that justice can be slow. That the echoes of a crime can linger across generations. And that even in the quietest neighborhoods, darkness can hide in plain sight. If there's anything to learn from this case, it's that persistence matters. That no tip is too old. And that sometimes, even after 40 years, secrets can finally be unearthed. Thank you for joining us on Real Unsolved Crimes. If you appreciated this story, consider sharing it and helping keep Katherine and Sheila's memory alive. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and never stop asking questions.